talk a little bit about sustainability, more importantly, food waste. This has been a very important topic recently being addressed by retailers as well as suppliers are doing a tremendous job now focusing on this effort. And as we know, billions of pounds of food is just wasted or thrown away each year. And we understand sustainability and food waste, it can be improved with an optimized supply chain. Question here, how does digital align with these efforts? Will there be more ESG reporting or standardized metrics for measuring the carbon impact of food waste, any kind of federal or state regulatory pressures? We'll turn it to Josh. Can you walk us through some examples?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an important one, certainly for us globally, but for me personally, we spend a lot of time focusing on children in our local communities because, as we all know, no child elects to go hungry. So with that lens, that helps provide a personal touch for this topic for me from that standpoint. And this digitization of a pooling model of our pooling business certainly aligns with that effort to reduce the food waste in our industry. From a regulation standpoint, I believe we're all familiar, at least we've heard of the Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA 204, Section D, I think is effectively what it is. But that's regulation that we're looking to put in place to better track certain products within the fresh food supply chain. The focus being on capturing key data elements and the critical tracking events as that product flows through the network. To put a finer picture on this, so we're all familiar with the news stories that come out and say, hey, we had a contamination event with lettuce. And so you go to your local grocer and they've thrown away all the lettuce that they have because they're being safe, right? They understand there was a contamination event. We're throwing it all away. That doesn't have to be the case. And when that doesn't have to be the case is when you have a digitized asset base that is tracking that product through the supply chain. You can link those specific lots from the contamination event to that product, and you're only having to discard the specific contaminated product and not all of the product. And so that is part of how digitization can support reducing the amount of food waste from a retailer and grower perspective. I know there's others that Sandeep and Pat will touch on, but this is certainly one of the ones that we're keeping a close eye on as this regulation comes closer and closer to reality for us.
Yeah, that makes sense, Josh. And yeah, it's coming down the pipe here. Sandeep, same question here. What are your thoughts? Where does your company play a role here, and what can we do to fight mitigate food waste?
Yeah, I think two things. You brought up sustainability and then the food waste as well. So on sustainability, let me start with that first. Pooling business, the nature of share and reuse of these assets makes the whole business model or all the companies in this business, more sustainable. Or Brambles is also strongly committed to sustainability. I think, we are some of the we are on the top spots according to many of the I think Barron's magazine puts us in the top spots as the 100 most sustainable companies. So I think there is a strong focus on the sustainability aspect of it. Now coming to food waste, I think through Brambles Digital, as I was saying, if you can track the pilot, if you can gather more environmental data, we are consciously studying what role can we play through these smart pallets. Food waste is definitely one lens, but I personally see the less the food is wasted, there is more food to be fed, I think, and it's extremely important in some of the countries where there is a shortage of food, like in Africa and many other nations. So I think we are in the early stages of this exploration on what value add we can offer to our customers to reduce food waste, but there's a strong commitment and in this direction from us as well.
So to your point, yeah, more food available, less waste, making informed decisions. To Josh's point, getting down to the pallet level, even at the item level, where you could save possibly half a truckload from being diverted to a secondary source, or even just donated in an effort to save that load or half load. if you will. Turning to Pat. Pat, what are your thoughts here from your perspective? At the RPC level, or what is happening?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. In terms of us, we see it in the produce and even other industries like seafood. You're trying to sit there and say, if you can actually make sure that you can get that product to the shelf in its absolute prime condition, and if there is something along the way that by providing that piece of data, you can inform someone that ensures it's delivered at that prime condition and stops it jumping outside, should we say, of a set range, be it temperature or be it humidity or something else that will affect its shelf life, means that we don't have to put as much on the shelf, and that food can actually mean that we don't have to use as much cardboard, or we don't have to use as much, let's say, fossil fuels to actually get it to somewhere. If cardboard is used, where we're saying use returnable packaging because that takes something else out of the chain. So suddenly, by giving that piece of insight, by actually, whether it be to us, to let's say somebody who's ripening a product or is transporting it, let's say like it's seafood in a chilled environment. If we can do all of that and we can give that previously, all the world knew was it started at A and it finished at B. Now we give it let's call it its life cycle. Then suddenly we are going to actually give all of those added value that Sandeep and especially Josh has said on the food waste, which, as the world changes, will become more and more critical. So we have to reduce those pieces of waste that's not needed. In the same way, we talk about the packaging. I recently was reading an article about, I think it's the company Loop, who are now offering almost like curbside recycling option for the hard to get rid of waste plastics. That's also going to need traceability. So suddenly you look at it, how come together can we actually support what the world wants to do? Well, yeah, as I came back to earlier, traceability is the foundation of the circular economy, and we, as poolers, we've got a job to do. And it's all around that.
Well said, Pat. I'll let Sandeep or Josh, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to touch on something Sandeep mentioned, and that is that we can do more than just talk about food waste. As Pat was alluding to, we can take additional waste out of just the environment, period. So when you're talking about a returnable asset, a reusable asset that we specialize in, taking away a piece of corrugate that's one-way packaging, taking away a one-way whitewood that has only one purpose for us, that's reducing the product that's ultimately going to a landfill, and that space is precious. So we can reallocate that to some other more value-added aspect for our communities. And so that's another key item that the returnable asset industry is providing to our local communities and globally. Not just the elimination or reduction of food waste, but also the waste that's going to landfill.